Hi, welcome back to the Manufacturing Come Up. I'm your host, Malachi Greb. Today, we have Shane Langley with Keller Engineering. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Glad to have you on the show. Love having engineers on the show. Love having sales engineers on the show. Me personally, I always have like a personal side of me that wants to, extract knowledge and information from sales engineers, because that's one of the things that I'm corely focused on right now is like, how can I improve my sales process coming from a controls engineering position?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's definitely something that we've had to figure out here as well, exactly how to approach customers and how to go about it. We like to think we do things a little bit differently here. So everybody on our sales team has a technical background. I've been in machining my entire career. Some of our other people have been in machining, 3 years, 4 years. So I think having that background kind of helps us out as far as how to approach customers and feel a lot more comfortable when they can have a conversation with you and feel like you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. That's like the one advantage that I have, like as far as being able to convert over to sales easily. At least I can talk technically. The hard part that I've challenged with is like, say for instance, if it's like a robotic cell and it's like a simple palletizing robotic cell, it's been hard for me to convert. What benefit does it bring that customer, right? That's been like the shift. I'm like, it's a robotic cell, like, it's a palletizing cell. We just install it. It's easy. Like, this is a no-brainer project. And so like, it's hard to like, for me to transition and add those values and be able to, translate that to the customer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always use, especially when we're interviewing salespeople or we're talking about leads and, how to approach it. I always say, everybody hates going into a store and you're asking one of the people, I need to do this or this. And they say, well, I'm not sure. Or you ask them a question about a product and they say, I'm not sure, I'd have to look it up. Everybody wants everything right now, including answers on, something that they're needing. So I think that definitely helps out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Would you go ahead and tell people where you're at currently in your career?
Yeah. So now I am director of sales for manufacturing at Keller Engineering. Started out at a large company out in Fountain Inn, South Carolina, and went through their apprenticeship program. So they select about 6 people every single year, and you go through a 2-year apprenticeship program, and you start out with stuff as simple as, filing parts down and running manual machines, just kind of the dirty work, that you have to learn how to do before, going into other positions there. And then after about a year or two, you start getting into the programming and actually running CNC machines. Stayed there for about 4 years or so and didn't really like the big company atmosphere. I wanted to go somewhere a little bit smaller, and I wanted to do something different, but still in machining.
Right.
And found myself at a place that makes custom carbide tooling for, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, all the big names. And they had been around forever. Stayed there again for about 4 years. And ended up at a small job shop, which got me into doing, more complicated setups, dealing with materials I wasn't used to at other places, getting into alloys and things like that. And then was driving down the road one day, and Kelly Engineering had their bay door open. Matt, the owner, had just purchased his first CNC machine, and they happened to be a half a mile away from my house. So I pulled in, asked if I could interview, and that's about all she wrote. So we're in year 8 now. I'm going into year 6 with the company now.
Yeah. That was perfect timing, because I'm sure at that point when he's bringing in his first CNC machine, he's needing some skilled individuals to operate.
He definitely did. I mean, he wanted to find somebody that, knew what they were doing, could run a shop, but also just wanted to find somebody that would fit the kind of culture that he wanted here. I mean, we talk about our culture all the time. That's one of the things that we really strive for, is to have a good culture here. So I think it was more of the type of person fit more so than, the skill set that he was looking for. And I think he interviewed me like 5 times before he actually sent me the job offer over.
Nice. Yeah, I think finding the good fit is like definitely much more important. That's one of the things that I've 100% experienced and learned from over the past few years, because I was always, very engineering mindseted, and so like I wanted skill, right? And I knew if I got skilled individuals, but then I didn't really realize that it's the work ethic, it's the the cultural energy that they bring to the team that really makes the big difference.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success with, younger guys. I mean, coming out of high school or, right, even out of tech school, and just finding that right type of guy. I mean, you can train anybody to run a CNC machine if they're willing to do it. You can train anybody to weld, run a laser, press brake. All of that can be taught, but you can't really teach somebody to show up to work every day, be respectful to their employees, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That starts from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
So going back to the beginning, what did you have any idea of you were going to become a CNC machinist or wanted to get into this type of industry?
To an extent. I mean, most of my family was in manufacturing. So my dad worked at Michelin, which is, big around here. And my grandfather worked at a small job shop. So I'd been around it, my whole life, but never really thought about getting into it. And when I went to work and, got my first job and started CNC machines, it was just interesting to me. It was something different. Even though I had been around it, I had seen, bridge ports and things like that. I hadn't seen a decal or anything. So it was definitely something that intrigued me. And I would say within a couple of weeks of being in that apprenticeship program, it just kind of, piqued my interest and kept going from there.
Awesome. Do you think, or let me take this back, I guess, being able to find that initial apprenticeship, do you think, how did you go about finding that apprenticeship?
The first job that I had was at Rexroth, and I was actually just working in their logistics area.
Gotcha.
So, moving pallets around, and then moved into kitting. So getting parts ready to, go on the CNC machines. They ran a ton of different part numbers, all very similar. So they had people that would go around and get, XYZ part number, take it to the machines. And I just kind of talking to the guys on the machines, they were like, hey, if this is really something that interests you, you should apply for the apprenticeship program. And I guess, being friendly with some of the guys out on the floor, they put in a good word for me and ended up getting in.
Nice. So you took basically the transition of, you kind of went and just got a job because you needed a job or something, and then this opportunity kind of arose to apply.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I applied for the job there, it was not anything where I was, technically looking to get into machining by any means.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things where it really just worked out, luck of the draw, I guess.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my initial starts were kind of in the same way. I started off getting a position as just a machine tender for an injection molding machine, and then within like 3 to 6 months, they brought in a new plant manager and everything, and they had like one or two guys that was like their mold setter and their process technician, and they was like, we need to do something to diversify, because like basically all the skill is within one guy. If he ever quits, we're screwed, right? And so I kind of came into the company right at that perfect time. I was interested. I was always watching the guy, watching the machine changes he would make, and asking him questions on it. And, the plant manager was involved as well with kind of learning some of that company's particular processes, so that way he could step in and maybe train people if ever needed it. And like, so I was just there asking questions, and, through that, the opportunity just kind of arose, like, hey, would you be interested in doing mold setting and process technician position? And I was like, yeah, sure, definitely, absolutely. And that kind of was like my initial start to doing anything in manufacturing, and really kind of got the ball moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of guys here that are like that. They come in the door, they're not 100% sure what they want to do. Some of them, they think they want to do one thing, and it ends up, going in a different direction. We've had guys that start out on the saw or, passivating parts, things like that, and they just kind of slowly progress and move up and kind of figure out where they want to land. I mean, we've had people that, kind of like I was, where they're just here to get a job in general. One of the guys on our sales team now, he was doing landscaping, and his friend got a job here as a machinist. And just kind of hearing him talk about it, I guess it piqued his interest, and he just wanted to get a job here and ran the saw. Then next thing you know, started doing machining as an operator, then moved into setup, and then eventually moved on to our sales team. So I think there's so many different paths that you can take to get into manufacturing, even just in general, that there's not really a right or a wrong way to do it.
Yeah, 101%. And that's for this podcast, it's one of the main reasons why we do it, is because you get an exposure to your story on how your path kind of transitioned, and there's key things that people could take away. Like you mentioned, I was friendly with the guys that were operating the CNC machine, and they put in a good word. Keeping those key things in mind, because I wasn't the best at soft skills, and if somebody hears that, maybe they can at least try to work. If they're not naturally good at it, they can try to work towards those type of skills, or just create more communication with those individuals, and then maybe the opportunities will arise. But all those things come from individuals like you telling your story.
Exactly. And I mean, I think there's fits, for everybody. I mean, you talked about the soft skills and things like that. Any kind of skill set can do the stuff that we're doing here. It's just, again, finding that right position. I mean, we've had guys that, maybe they don't have the technical background to actually be one of those, main setup guys, but they end up working out really well as programmers, or maybe they go in as planners, things like that. There's just so many areas that you can get into that it's just wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Diving into that a little bit, how did you transition from being a CNC operator to sales?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I mean, when I said that, I first applied here, it was Matt, our owner, and Travis, the VP of operations now. They were the two that were working here. Travis had started in November. I came on in December, and it was just the three of us and then some office help, and we had to wear so many different hats. I mean, if you only have 3 employees at a company that you're trying to start up, you're not just a machinist at that point. You're the machinist, you're the sales guy, you're the programmer, you're all of those things. And Travis ran the fab side of it. So he, welded, he ran the press brake. I mean, he helped out on machining plenty of times. So with that, I mean, it kind of gave us that mentality of we were never going to be those people that said, that's not my job. We always wanted to help out whatever was best for the company, whatever was needed, we were, going to do it. So as we hired more and more people, we got 2 machinists to come on and help us out. And the machine shop really started to grow, but we still didn't have a sales force. So I was dealing with 99% of our customers for the most part. And the bigger we got, the more customers that we had, it just got harder for me to do both of them. And it became to where, I wasn't really good at either one at that point. I was lacking on the sales side of it because I didn't have time, but I was also lacking on running the machine shop.
Yeah.
So Matt just came to me and said, I think this is something that, you would like. You do really great with the customers. I think you should move into just strictly doing sales. And it was, one of those things where I'm not sure I want to do that. And, there's always that kind of get that bad taste in your mouth from the word sales for whatever reason. And then once you get into it, you kind of think, I don't even know why I thought like that. It's nothing like you think it's going to be. So.
Yeah, and a lot of times I think even if you're a good salesperson and you are doing sales internally in your company, if you're a smaller company like that, you may not realize that that's what you're doing, right? You're just talking to the customer, just telling them all the things, right? And you're doing the sales process, right? But it just doesn't have that title over it.
Yeah, I mean, Matt asked me about going into sales, and I'm like, I've never done sales. And he said, well, what do you think you've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years? I mean, And I looked at it as I'm just giving the customer updates or giving them quotes or, feedback on projects and things like that. And he said, well, that's sales. That's what you've been doing. So it was definitely something that I'm glad I did. I mean, now, 2022, we invoiced 95 different customers. So I couldn't even imagine trying to deal with 95 customers along with, trying to be out on the shop floor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's completely impossible, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's one thing when it comes to like, working in a smaller company versus working in a larger company, and like for people like getting into industry and getting jobs, that like if you go with a smaller company, you're gonna get a lot more exposure to a lot of things, but you're also gonna not get a ton of singular exposure to one singular thing. And that was like one of the things that you touched on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I love the smaller shop atmosphere. I mean, a lot of times at a big company, you're just a number on a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Here, the CEO knows your name. He knows how many kids you got, where you vacation, things like that. Everybody on the floor is, friends with each other. You got guys that are, going out after work and riding motorcycles, going to play golf, things like that. So I definitely think it's more of a, family style atmosphere, a lot friendlier. Whereas, those big places, you might not see 70% of the people that work at the same company as you just because there's so many of them and the place is so large.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's another thing too to keep in mind is like you said, like the two different sizes of go. Go. Huh? Do whatever you want. Go. No, go.
Got the kids trying to jump on the podcast, I guess.
Yeah, that's my youngest one. Tommy, you want to jump on the podcast real quick? Come on, hurry up. We're live. But yeah, like the two different sizes of companies will give you a completely different vibe. Say hi to everybody. We're live, okay?
Hi.
We're up there. Say hi.
Hi.
But yeah,
I think one of the other big things that I think is great about people going into those smaller companies is you're going to get more of an opportunity at those smaller companies. I mean, if you go to a big company and, like me, luckily I was one of the few that got the opportunity to go into that apprenticeship. But a lot of times you'll have guys that, they get stuck in a certain position. They don't get that opportunity to move up because management or, the higher powers at the company, they aren't seeing them on a daily basis. They don't know what kind of potential they have. At a smaller company, that potential is getting seen every single day. You're working directly with, management, you're working directly with the leads and things like that. And it just makes it easier for you to get an opportunity to move up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a huge part. So I also came from a smaller company. I think really at their biggest, there was like 15 employees. And so it was that same type of culture. And there was so much opportunity that was brought to me. And there was also just like so much opportunity that I took on. It was like organic, right? We didn't like one of the things was we didn't have an internal electrical engineer. So now either we were outsourcing it. And if we outsourced it, we had to wait, 1, 2, 3 weeks till, they provided us back the electrical prints. And at this point, I've wired enough panels. I've wired enough junction boxes that, enough robots that I know all the electrical engineering in my own mind. Right. So really it's just a matter of learning the software. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I said, don't worry about it, guys. Don't worry about outsourcing. I'll just do it. Right. And then we can have somebody verify the work after I've done it. And, I did it with that. I did it with risk assessments, which I don't know why I did that because there's so much documentation that's involved in that. And I was like, this is one of those things where I was like one of those individuals that stepped up. So be careful, guys. If you want to step up and take on opportunity, I always suggest do that. But you might want to pay attention to how much documentation that goes behind it if you don't like documentation.
That is definitely true. Definitely true.
Yeah. You can, like you said, like you can only get that in the smaller working culture and smaller companies. And also too, like going back to like the apprenticeship thing, there might be some people that wait 2 or 3 years to get in that apprenticeship. Maybe they finally get it, but they also wasted 2 or 3 years to finally get into that position. Or or like you said, they never get it. And that happens sometimes.
Right. Yeah, it definitely does. And I mean, I think it's at least I have found that, at these smaller companies, a lot of times people are more willing to teach you and work with you than they are at, some of the larger companies. I mean, some of the people that work at larger companies, I mean, they're great. They want to teach you, they want you to learn everything you can, but then you've also got people that, in all honesty, there's nothing wrong with it, but they're just there to, get their check, go home and, be done for the day. They might not be as willing to teach you, what you're trying to learn and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is good that like experience the corporate culture, like especially for like somebody like myself. I didn't really ever have like that corporate structure, right? Because it was a smaller company. So now starting a company and having the ambition that I have, the only way a company that I envision can survive is having a corporate structure, right? You can only grow so big before things don't work at a non-corporate level, at least to some degrees, right? You can still try to maintain like a good working culture that's like friendly and open and all those good things. But, the one thing we've been transitioning into this past year was like creating departments. So, before, when you're smaller and there's less people, it's just job titles. And like you said, it's 3 job titles to 1 person, right? And then you start to convert to 1 job title, 3 people. And start to develop, okay, what positions are separate, and seeing that from a corporate job, that experience is a super big help, because now, since I haven't experienced that firsthand, I'm trying to think of all the things in my mind. What type of departments do huge corporations have, right? Okay, they have finance departments, they have sales departments, they have marketing departments, engineering departments. And then like as you grow past that, like then there's departments within those departments, right? And it's just something to keep in mind, if depending on how somebody wants to try to navigate their career. Like go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's definitely something that's good for people to do. I mean, some people work out great at big companies, but I think that it's always, it's one of those things that you've got to go through that, whether it's going to be your career staying at one of those bigger companies, or, whether you decide that you want to move on to a smaller one. I think it's something that's really good for people to go through, especially if they're going to be somebody that is coming into a very small company and trying to grow it. Because if you're trying to grow the company, no matter how small it is, and you're good at it, it's going to get bigger. You're eventually going to get to the point to where you are one of those big companies, that people talk about. And I think that part of the goodness of working at one of those big companies is, you can say, okay, I really, really like the way that they do these things. I don't like the way that they do these things. And you can kind of turn it into your own style, of corporate management, or that corporate style company. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to keep.
Yeah, absolutely. The experience is great. And like, also like, this is not something that never crossed my mind, but it's something I probably should have definitely put more thought into, was, do I want a corporate type of position? So it never came into my mind, like, do I want to be in corporate? And it's highly likely it would have been a good route for me. And it's also highly likely I would have never started a company, because maybe I would have worked for a corporate company and I would have, been very successful in it and climbed the corporate ladder, and kind of never had the ceiling that I had that made me say, okay, why don't I just do this myself, right? Like, that was one of the big things that I experienced through working with another employer was, I'm working, I'm trying to improve myself and grow and grow and grow and grow. And then, with this company, the company I was within, I could just see there wasn't that level of like drive and like trying to do things differently enough that, really facilitated the level of expansion that I was looking to reach. I'll just give an example, because I think this is important for people that are in these positions. If you're working for a company and they're doing, I'm just using somewhat smaller numbers, they're doing $2 million a year in revenue, and over the course of the next 10 years, they're going to get to $10 million in revenue. Maybe that growth projection doesn't match what you want in your career path. Because you got to think, if they reach $10 million a year in revenue, how much money in salaries can they pay to the employees underneath that, right? Obviously, like if you get to a company that's doing 100 million a year or can even hit $1 billion in a year revenue, that facilitates the ability to pay a lot higher salaries and reach, let's say, an executive level position. Because in my opinion, that you can't even really have an executive level position until you reach like maybe $100,000. I mean, not $100 million revenue. That's where
Right.
you really, hit needing like an actual corporate executive structure.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, I think it's, everybody's got a different style of job that they want to have, or, a different type of company that they want. But I mean, yeah, you definitely got to do your research on the size company you want to work at. Like you said, how much revenue are they bringing in? How many employees do they have? Things like that. It's definitely something that goes into play.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that like through schooling, we're not really taught those things. I never thought about looking at company size.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff that they leave out of school that would be great if they taught. I mean, just talking about manufacturing in general is one of those things. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've met kids that are coming out of high school and things like that have no idea about CNC machining or welding or what a fiber laser is and things like that. So I think it's definitely something that would be great if they start talking about it in schools. What kind of company sizes, the type of benefits that you're going to get at those companies. I mean, that's another thing you got to think about is what's most important to you. You go to those big companies and your benefits, they're amazing.
Yeah.
You go to a smaller one. I mean, yeah, you might make a little bit more money, but your benefits might not be as good. So
yeah,
I think it's something that would be great if they talk about it.
Yeah, 101%. And to that note that you just said, I pretty much went my entire career without health insurance because of that factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as of right now, in a sales director position, can you give people a little bit of insight to what that position looks like, and maybe also what it looks like as a sales representative?
Yeah, so we are definitely different when it comes to sales. I will say that. I mean, we have outside and inside sales positions, and I say that, but at the same time, they're all kind of doing the same thing. I mean, our inside sales guys, they're quoting jobs and getting jobs ready to release to the floor, things like that. But our outside sales, on top of going out and getting customers, they're quoting their own jobs. They're getting their own orders ready to release out to the floor. And that's one of those things, again, with a company that's growing, we are having to adjust and adapt to how we handle things.
Yeah.
But normal sales day for me is first thing in the morning coming in and, going through emails from, second shift. We've got customers in other countries that, you've got to catch up with them, give them updates, things like that. And then it's kind of just going through and figuring out, okay, whose jobs are coming up, who needs quotes, when the orders need to be getting out. Are there any things that are kind of at the top of the list of things that we need to try and push to production to hopefully get done?
Gotcha. Yeah. So like for our structure, talking about that, our structure is more of our inside sales are out. So we try to keep much more inside sales and much less outside sales. And I try to touch as much outside sales stuff as I potentially can, right? I try to be like face to face with customers as much as I potentially can. And then, for us, we try to have our inside sales team support our outside sales team as much as possible. And then they're also outside facing as well. So those different structures definitely play a little bit of a role on like what the daily job tasks looks like for each individual.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things where we just gotta adapt. I mean, I hope that we can get to the point to where we've got inside sales that are, supporting those outside sales, and they do to an extent. But it's just, we're growing. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's hard for us for the industries that we're in. It's hard to find somebody that is welding or machining and trying to convince them to come into a sales role. And it's hard to find that technical background that we're looking for to come into sales. So it definitely makes it tough for inside and outside. We're just kind of trying, like I said, to adapt to it and build it the best we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Technical sales positions, especially in our industry, is like it's one of the harder positions to find. It's one of the higher paying positions. It offers it's one of the most challenging positions, but then again, it gains you quite a bit of experience and exposure to industry and different types of facilities and things like that.
Right. I mean, that's one of the reasons why our outside sales team is quoting a lot of their own jobs, is because the more that you're doing it, the easier and quicker you're going to learn it, whether you've got a background in it or not. I mean, if you turn into where you're just never seeing quotes, you're never seeing, orders come through, you're outside visiting customers and things like that all the time, it gets easier and easier for you to forget things, and it gets harder for you to go out and talk to customers and tell them exactly what we can offer them or what they may need on a certain project.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, to think about it, like the one part about sales that I had actually done was like the RFQ process. So that part definitely did help transition into the sales role, because like you said, going on site, sometimes you forget like little small things, but whenever you go through like that quoting process, you're like, okay, robot tooling, okay, sensors, okay, cylinders, okay. You know what I mean? Like, and so you start thinking about these smaller things, and they are small things, but I mean, a robot tooling could have $1,000 in sensors on it, or much more.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I always push for is, outside or inside sales, either one, is to spend as much time as they can on the shop floor, when they get that opportunity, because if you're walking around and you're around it every single day, when you go to a customer and you're walking through their facility, you're going to be walking by and say, okay, we've seen something like that before out on the floor. That might be something that we could help you guys with. So it makes it easier for you to see those things as you're going through customers' facilities, or you might be able to show them certain things at our facility that may be something they need and we can help them with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What were some particular things that helped you throughout your journey and your growth?
I definitely think the different types of industries, that I was involved in. I mean, working in a, high production, large facility, and then getting into CNC grinding was the other one. And then, I mean, I've been in aerospace and medical and automotive, and I think that made it easier for me to recognize, like, what kind of customers can we go after, which ones, might be a big customer, down the road, which ones may be a little bit smaller. And, I've kind of brought that here to the sales team, and we do work for just about every industry there is. I mean, automotive, aerospace, marine, transit, medical. So I think the biggest thing for me was just having that exposure to so many different types of industries. You kind of learn every style of machining and, every style of part that you could come across, be it low quantity, high quantity, tons of different types of materials. I think that really helped.
Gotcha. And so from like the exposure to all the different industries, what exactly do you think that taught you?
Just learning what those different industries expect, probably, I've learned, especially here, like, a lot of times people say, aerospace and medical, those are the toughest companies to do work for, because, all the tolerances are tight, all of their standards are extremely in depth, and they ask a lot of you. And, had I not worked in other industries, I mean, I've learned, just in the last 2 or 3 years, that transit is surprisingly one of the ones that have even harder standards to follow, and tighter tolerances, and ask a lot of the vendors. I mean, I would say that learning that has really helped in seeing the different styles of things that they're going to ask for, be it documents or inspection reports that you're going to have to do, or just little things that they want to see from you that you might not know unless you're around it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like they say, the riches are in the niches, right? And it's like, the more you understand like the small things, like the more it helps you like navigate different decisions.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm still learning, every day here. I mean, it's something that I think that you have to do, and you have to, I keep saying it, but you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to learn every single day, and pick up on new things. I think that learning that is probably one of the biggest things that can help you in this industry.
Yeah, that's one thing I really love about this industry as well, is like, I feel like I can't really imagine a particular time where you're just going to not learn, right? Like, things are always evolving. What you knew 5 years ago may not be the same today. So like, even after you reach expert level, there's still so many things that are changing from what you knew even a year or two ago, right? Like, not to get too specific, but like right now I'm spending a lot of my time analyzing a particular sector of the industry. And within 1 to 2 years, I want to be an expert where if you ask me any particular thing on this topic, that I can tell you who owns what company, roughly how much they're doing in revenue per year. Like, and so I'm spending a lot of my time in researching that and exploring all that. And even after I accomplish that, right, those things are still going to be ever changing. This company that owned that company is now going to get bought out by another company. This company is going to sell off that complete division. And so the growth learning curve will change, but now you can like spend your time and energy into like really, really become an expert, right? Like there's individuals that are experts at what they do. And then, I think the word expert could technically be used a little too much, right? Like, when are you really an expert?
Right. And I mean, I think, even here at Kelly Engineering, like one of the things that I have, learned, or at least started trying to learn, is I've never been around the automation side of this industry. So that's been something where I've been really trying to learn as much as I can and ask questions. And, I'll have customers that come visit our facility, and, I'll take them through the machine shop, I'll take them through the fab shop, and, I can tell them everything, they need to know. But then when it comes to, we're walking by and they see one of our automation projects, I don't know a whole lot about it. It's just something that I haven't been involved in. So I'll take them over there, and I'll have, one of the project managers or one of the engineers tell them a little bit more about what they're doing and, what's involved in getting that project done. And I'll just try to listen and learn as much as I can. I never knew how much it took to, get a robot project off the ground, or, something as simple as, chain conveyors, and, getting them to link everything together and get it all to work together. You just don't think about how much goes into that until you actually see it happening in front of you. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And like, kind of, for me, it's kind of more so on the machining side of things. So like, and even, robotic welding. So I came from like material handling, and now our company is pretty much completely shifted to robotic welding. So, we're still doing material handling, but all our marketing, all our sales initiatives, all those things have shifted over to robotic welding applications. And, me being the company owner, it's like, it's different because it's not where my expertise is, but it's where like 80% of our employees are like, that's where they came from. They came from BIW lines. They came from, MIG welding of automotive, spot welding. And, with that transition, it's like exposing me to so many things, and I'm having to learn so many things so quickly even being, coming from like a controls engineering background, a lot of those, the engineering processes are different, right? A lot of the things that you got to think about, fixturing and weld parameters and just different things like that, right? And then you have like multiple sectors of the industry that's, manufacturing that's already in robotic welding. So they just need, hey, we just need another robotic welding cell. Okay, cool. And then you have the other customer that's, hey, we're not robotically welding anything, but we'd like to try to robotically weld this, so like just that alone is like two sectors that are in two completely different directions, and navigating the conversations completely different. Like all those things are offering like new learnings and new experiences and exposures.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going over the next few years?
Well, I mean, we definitely have goals in place, sales goals, the size of company that we want to become. Our biggest thing right now is we're moving into a new facility. So all of our manufacturing's moving into a 60,000 square foot facility.
Congratulations.
And we're adding powder coating, which is going to be a big thing for us, which again, that goes back to, that learning curve of learning something every day is something we've never done before. We've always sent it out, and now we've got to learn, how to bring it in house. Yeah. We've grown really quickly. We want to keep on doing it. We did $7.5 million last year. Nice. We're hoping to do 10 this year. Nice. It's a big goal to set, but hoping to reach that goal this year. Awesome. But I think, getting into our new facility, getting powder coat up and going and seeing where that can take us is kind of the next step. We just purchased a company as well, about 45 minutes away from us, that does production machining. That's another thing that I'm really looking forward to growing that, and also taking the customers that they have and being able to offer them, lower quantity projects, whether it's, prototype work for them or, also getting into fab work with them as well. Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I'm extremely excited about business wise is acquisition of companies. And, we'll probably start doing it fairly early on. We're even internally discussing it now. I think acquisitions are powerful. Like you said, like just being able to leverage, acquiring that company and then offering your services to them. And then also like it could be the other way around. You can now take on projects that maybe were more of high running parts that you can't just dedicate a machine towards or do it profitably enough that this company's already got it down. They already got the business model down and everything. Yeah. So like a lot of those things are extremely exciting. And also it's like, now it's almost like you get to go work for another company and see what their culture is, see what their, procedures and processes are. And that exposure and experience is super exciting. Yeah. I mean, you're going to learn something from them, every single time, no matter what kind of company you're getting. Sometimes it's good things, sometimes it's bad, but you're always going to have things that you can take away from those companies and you can integrate into yours that, something that you really like. So I definitely think that exposure is great, and it definitely is powerful. I mean, we were expecting to end the year last year with 45 or so employees, and we ended up ending the year with, I think, around 63 or so. Nice. And you can just imagine, I mean, that immediate capacity increase is one of the biggest things, because everybody wants everything right now. I mean, that's just kind of the world that we live in is, they want lead time shorter, they want to get it faster, they want to get it cheaper, all of that stuff. And being able to increase your capacity essentially overnight is just, it's hard to compare. Yeah. It's extremely powerful. That's one thing, like I'm very expansive. Our COO of our company says, let's slow down. So like me, I'm like, let's hire, because I think about capabilities. Like, okay, we hire this type of person that has this skill set. Now we can do this type of project, or now we can do more of these type of projects. So I'm always excited for the expansion, bringing on new people into the team. The capacity is huge. Makes a big difference. Yeah, and I think we deal with that all the time. I mean, everybody here is like that, where it's, let's hire this position, let's hire this position, let's get these, new machines in, or this new capability that we can have. And sometimes our owner has to kind of pull the reins back a little bit and say, let's not overdo it just yet.
Yeah. You always need that type of person in your company. That's like the counterbalance, right? Like if it wasn't for people saying like, hey, don't spend that money, I mean, there's no telling what I would do. What I mean? Because awesome. Shane, where can people find you at?
What was that?
Where can people find you at?
We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, LinkedIn. So you can go to our website, kelly-eng.com. Same thing on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Got a ton of equipment list on there, pictures, a ton of information on the company. You can request a quote directly on our website, make it super easy.
Awesome. Do you have any last valuable points for the audience before you go today?
I would say, just pushing for manufacturing in the younger generation. I think that's something that's got to be done. I can't tell you how many shops that I've worked at where, the average age is, 55 years old, and you just don't have young guys coming in. And we've got to have that availability where we've got, a stream of people coming into the industry. And I think it's got to start at, a high school level or even younger than that, and making sure that we're talking about it. We're telling them how cool of an industry it is, and that in all honesty, you can make a great living from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Shane, thank you for being on today.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Thank you.